Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a moment to say this. Safety isn't about checklists, policies, or paperwork. It's about people. Welcome to Safety on Purpose, the podcast where we challenge traditional safety thinking and explore what it really takes to protect people, build trust, and lead with intention. I'm your host, Joe Garcia, and each episode we dive into real conversations about leadership, culture, human behavior, and the moments that shape how work actually gets done. If you believe safety should be human-centered, practical, and purpose-driven, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Now let's get into today's conversation. Let's start with a phrase that shows up in far too many incident reports. Cause of incident, human error. It's neat, it's simple, it closes the loop quickly, and most of the time it explains almost nothing. When we write human error, what we're often saying is someone made a bad choice, someone didn't follow procedure, someone wasn't paying attention, someone should have known better. Case closed. Except it isn't. Because the real question isn't whether a human made the error. Of course a human did. The real question is, why did it make sense for that person to do what they did in that moment? If we don't understand that, we haven't investigated anything. We've just blamed. And blaming workers is the lazy answer. Why human error is so attractive. Let's be honest about why this happens. Labeling something as human error is convenient. It protects systems. It protects leadership. It protects timelines. It avoids uncomfortable conversations. If the root cause is the worker, then the fix is easy. Retrain them. Write them up. Remind everyone of the policy. Move on. It feels decisive, but it's rarely accurate. Because humans operate inside systems, and systems shape behavior. If 5 different employees make the same mistake over 6 months, that is not 5 separate human failures. That is a system signal, and ignoring the signal doesn't make the risk disappear. It buries it. The myth of the careless worker. There's a subtle narrative that creeps into safety cultures. If people just paid attention, we wouldn't have incidents. But here's a reality check. Most workers don't come to work intending to get hurt. They want to do their job well, finish their shift, provide for their families, avoid conflict. So when someone bypasses a guard, skips a step, or rushes a lift, it's rarely because they don't care. It's usually because they were under time pressure. The safe way was slower or harder. The equipment design created friction. They've done it that way before without consequence. They were modeling what they saw others do. That's not an excuse. That's context. And context is what separates a real investigation from a superficial one. Compliance thinking versus system thinking. Traditional compliance thinking asks, did they follow the rule? Systems thinking asks, what conditions made it likely the rule would be broken? Compliance thinking stops at behavior. Systems thinking digs into it. Digs into the work design, incentives, leadership signals, and equipment usability, staffing levels, training effectiveness, and communication clarity. Both matter, but if you stop at compliance, you'll repeat incidents because behavior is the visible symptom. The system is the cause, and regulatory framework, including those enforced by OSHA, require employers to provide safe workplaces, not just safe instructions. That distinction matters. What human error actually means. Let's unpack this phrase for a minute. Human error typically falls into a few categories. Number 1, skill-based errors, slips and lapses, forgetting to re-engage a lock, grabbing the wrong control. Number 2, decision errors, making the wrong choice based on limited information. Number 3, violations, deliberately deviating from a rule. Now, here's the critical insight. Even violations often have system drivers. Let's ask the questions, was the rule realistic? Was it enforced consistently? Was there pressure to bypass it? Was the equipment poorly designed? Was production prioritized over procedure? If a violation is widespread, it's definitely culture. If it's isolating and willful, that's different. But don't assume willful before investigating systematic. The production pressure problem. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Production pressure drives behavior. You can say safety first in meetings, but if promotions, praise, and bonuses are tied exclusively to output, the message, well, it's clear. Workers are not irrational. They respond to incentives. If someone bypasses a safety step because they believe falling behind will cost them credibility, that's not random human error. That's predictable behavior under pressure. Blaming the worker in that scenario ignores the real driver. And if leadership refuses to examine the pressure, you'll keep rewriting human error on reports while injuries continue. Training isn't a root cause. Here's another lazy pattern. Incidents occur. Root cause, human error. Corrective action, retrain. Training is important, but retraining someone on a rule they already know rarely fixes the issue. If someone knew the rule and still bypassed it, the issue wasn't knowledge. It was environment, culture, incentive, fatigue, and design. If you keep responding with training to the behavior that isn't knowledge-based, you're not solving anything. You're documenting activity. The danger of blame culture. When workers see investigations consistently end with, employee failed to follow procedure, employee was careless, employee did not pay attention, they learn something. They learn that reporting incidents may end up in punishment. So what happens next? Near misses go unreported. Minor injuries get hidden. Hazards stay quiet. Blame suppresses transparency. And without transparency, risk multiplies. If you want reporting to increase, investigations must focus on learning, not finger pointing. That doesn't eliminate accountability. It changes the tone. Accountability asks, what allowed this to happen? Blame asks, who caused this? Those are very different questions. Engineering versus expectation. Let's talk about design. If a guard is removed frequently, let's ask why. Is it cumbersome? Does it block visibility? Does it slow changeovers? Is it poorly positioned? If PPE is inconsistently worn, let's ask these questions. Is it uncomfortable? Does it fog up? Does it reduce dexterity? If the safe way requires excessive steps, while the unsafe way is faster and easier, humans are naturally going to drift. You cannot out-train poor design. Engineering controls exist for a reason. If you rely primarily on administrative controls and discipline, you are leaning heavily on human perfection. Humans are not perfect. Systems must account for that. Fatigue, distraction, and cognitive load. Another reality. Workers, well, they're not robots. Fatigue impacts decision-making. Stress narrows attention. Multitasking increases errors. If your facility runs heavy overtime, minimal breaks, or high cognitive load tasks, error likelihood rises. Calling that human error is technically true, but it's incomplete. It's like blaming gravity when something falls. The condition existed, the environment made the outcome likely. If fatigue is predictable, then fatigue-related mistakes, they're also predictable. And predictable issues should be managed, not blamed. The leadership reflection question. Here's a question that changes investigations. What did we do, intentionally or unintentionally, that made this error more likely? That question requires humility. It shifts responsibility from they failed to what did we build? Leadership maturity is measured by willingness to ask that question. It doesn't mean accepting fault for every action. It means acknowledging influence, because leadership always influences behavior, always. When it actually is reckless. Let's be clear, not every situation is systematic. There are cases of willful misconduct, intentional disregard, repeated violations after coaching. Accountability, well, it still matters. But even in those cases, consistency is key. If discipline is arbitrary or selective, trust erodes. The goal isn't to eliminate consequences. It is to ensure consequences are fair, consistent, and not the first tool pulled out of the toolbox. Blame as a reflex weakens culture. Accountability applied thoughtfully strengthens it. A better investigation model. If you want to move beyond human error, try this framework in your next investigation. Number 1, describe what happened without judgment. Number 2, map the work conditions at that time. Number 3, identify pressure present. Number 3, identify pressures present. Number 4, examine equipment and environmental factors. Number 5, review supervisory reinforcement patterns. Number 6, ask the employee what made sense in that moment. That last one, that's critical. What made sense to you at the time? If you listen carefully, you'll uncover drivers you didn't see. And those drivers are where prevention lives. Why this matters long term. Blaming workers may close a file, but it doesn't prevent reoccurrence. System improvement is slower, harder, and more complex, but it reduces risk at scale. When you fix a system issue, you protect everyone. When you blame a worker, you isolate one event. Safety leadership isn't about writing reports. It's about reducing risk over time, and that requires intellectual honesty. If the same type of human errors keep recurring, the common denominator isn't people, it's the environment. The culture signal. Every investigation, it sends a signal. It tells employees whether honesty is safe, whether leadership listens, whether improvement is possible, and whether blame is the default. If your report consistently reads human error, that's a cultural message. If your report identifies systematic improvements and leadership acts on them, that's a different message. And culture is shaped by those repeated signals. Humans, we're always going to make mistakes. That's not controversial. What is controversial and necessary is acknowledging that mistakes are often predictable responses to imperfect systems. Blaming workers, it's easy. It protects egos, it protects processes, it protects timelines, but it does not protect people. Real safety leadership, it asks harder questions. It challenges assumptions. It examines incentives. It scrutinizes design. It holds systems accountable, not just individuals. Because if we want fewer injuries, fewer near misses, and stronger cultures, we have to move beyond human error and start asking why systems allowed that error to happen in the first place. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Safety isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about the choices we make, the conversations we have, and the people we choose to protect every single day. If today's episode challenged your thinking, encouraged you, or simply made you pause and reflect, that means the conversation is working. Safety on Purpose exists to help leaders and safety professionals move beyond compliance and build trust rooted in accountability and care. If you found value in this episode, please take a moment to follow or subscribe to the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and consider sharing it with someone who leads people or influences culture. New episodes of Safety on Purpose are released bi-weekly with bonus content throughout the year designed to equip, challenge, and inspire the next generation of safety leaders. And remember, safety doesn't happen by accident. It happens on purpose. I'm Joe Garcia. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.